You've been driving for a while now. There must be some type of sign or something in the distance to let you know where you are. Oh, wait. Yeah, there's one. Right up there. It's coming closer. It's getting into focus. Oh, you're now entering Dreamland. Hi, everyone. My name is Stacy Axler, and I am the host of Now Entering Dreamland, a podcast about dreams, sleep, and everything in between. Welcome back to those of you who have been to Dreamland before. We're happy to have you, and welcome to everyone to this episode, which is episode 3 of the podcast. I'm really excited about this episode because it is another interview style episode, and I am doubly thrilled about it because I was able to interview one of my favorite people, and that person is Kristina Martinez. Kristina Martinez is the coach of my improv team, which is Maple Sunday. That is a house team with Dojo Comedy in Washington, D.C. But Kristina Martinez does so much more than that. Coaches so many other teams, performs on so many other teams, is hands down one of the funniest people that I've ever met, and I feel honored and privileged to get to learn from her because in the 3 years that I've known her, she's really transformed the way that I think about comedy and think about improv. So thank you, Kristina. When Kristina said that she was interested and available to be interviewed for this project, I was thrilled because I knew that we were going to have a really fun, dynamic conversation, and we did. We started talking about our dreams and sleep, and we kind of veered off the beaten path a little bit, talking about things that prevent us from going to sleep, and that is scary movies. A slight spoiler here, but if you are watching the Into the Dark movie series with Hulu and Blumhouse Productions, you should know that we do talk about a few of those episodes in detail, and we have a few spoilers, so just keep your ears perked if you're watching some of those. I don't want to spoil anything unintentionally. I had a really great time talking to Kristina, and I think you're really going to enjoy this interview. So without further ado, here's some dream, sleep, and horror movie talk with the very funny Kristina Martinez.
Okay, so my question about sleep paralysis is,
Okay.
do you're aware, right? Like that you can't move your body.
Yeah.
And so like what do you do to calm yourself down?
Well, when I first started experiencing sleep paralysis, I was a teenager, and I was really disturbed because you always hear about sleep paralysis, but it's one of those things where like you don't know what it is until you experience it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I guess the only way to describe it, maybe this is like a really crude way to describe it, but like, I don't know. I feel like as a teenager, everyone was like, oh my gosh, sex, like it's the best thing ever. And then you kind of are like, well, what is it? Like, what is it? And then when you experience it, you're like, oh my God, well, this is it. Like, this is what it is. And I feel like that's kind of what sleep paralysis is, where it's like, it's so strange that the first few times I experienced it, all when I was like young high school age, it was very shocking. But like the very first time after I experienced it, it was like, well, this is what it is now. So it slowly has gotten less disturbing, and just now it's very annoying. Because when you typically like sex, it's exactly like sex. But it's like typically when you wake up, you know, you're ready to go. Like you want to, typically for me, I want to pee, to be quite honest with you. So like sex, just like sex. So I don't know, like I wake up and I'm just like, I want to start my day and I want to go to the bathroom and I want to like do something, and it's like I cannot move. It's very frustrating at this point. Like, and typically like the way that I sleep, it's like it will fade away on its own in a few minutes, but sometimes like if I notice my arm is like kind of towards like the edge of the bed, I'm like,
Mhm.
maybe maybe gravity will take over and my arm will fall out of bed. And sometimes that has happened where it's like my arm is like really almost at that like point where it's like it's
Yeah.
almost out of bed, and I know that like once my arm is like moving on its own, my entire body will be able to move. So I'm like, come on, gravity.
It's like jump starting your body.
Yep. Yeah. It's so frustrating. Have you ever experienced sleep paralysis?
I think maybe I've been. I think what I experience more is knowing that I'm dreaming
Okay.
while I'm
Yes.
dreaming. So like I can tell, like there are moments in dreams where I can tell myself this is a dream, and sometimes I can wake up and then go back and access that, so I can continue the events of it.
Oh my
Because it's
god.
pretty exciting. I think I have pretty cinematic dreams.
So describe to me one of your cinematic dreams.
Okay, well, one of the earliest and usually they're like, when I say cinematic, I mean like there are movie stars in them, and they're like, I was telling this to Neil earlier that my dreams are so like movie-like that I think sometimes my brain has to remember that I have to cast myself in them because I'm not usually in them. And I get like a really shitty part. Like I'm not even the main character in these dreams. So like I had a dream a long time ago where like Tom Cruise adopted a younger version of me,
Oh my gosh. All right.
and I was this like, full of attitude little kid. And I think he was like a cop or something, and we
I love
lived
it.
in like New Orleans. And I remember the name of that movie, which I think was a movie. It was called Albino Alligator. That was the name of the movie in which I was in. But then I think it's a real movie. So I don't
think
know.
that's like an improv team name also.
Is it really?
I feel like it is, but who knows, honestly.
Oh well, dang, brain. This was like years ago when I was like in high school that
Right,
I had that dream.
right.
Not to say improv can't be that old, but like dreams were like, I don't know, stuff is happening and like a lot of stuff happens. And then I wake up and I'm like, oh, I kind of want to continue that storyline. And so I'll just kind of like will myself back to sleep. And it's never as good as when it was like
Crisp, like right there.
Yeah, it's like I'm trying to do a sequel and it's like it's not as good as the first one.
So you're kind of lucid dreaming.
Yeah.
In a way.
All the time. And I can usually, and I remember like probably 85% of the time the next morning.
So would you say, are your dreams more positive, or are you more of like a, I don't know, nice dreamer, or like a, do you have nightmares?
I'll have scary dreams. I don't know that they're really nightmares. I think like there are times when I'll have dreams where bad stuff happens, but it's not anything like spiders or snakes for the sake of like being scary. It's just like somebody's trying to like get into the house or like, but that's, I mean, I read so many true crime stories and watch like so much true crime stuff that like,
true,
that kind of
is accurate
me as to why that's happening. I did when I was really little though. I used to, right before I'd fall asleep, I would always think my mom was yelling out my name.
Really?
Like, needed help. And like, so I would like fall asleep as a little kid and then I'd hear like, Kristina. And I was like, oh, and it startled me awake.
Oh my gosh.
But I don't know. I think I grew out of that.
That's very interesting. I've never I mean, granted, I haven't spoken to that many people yet. This is a plug for the podcast. But also, I personally have not experienced that. That's very interesting.
I've heard somebody else, I don't remember what it was, that I had heard somebody else describe that, of like before they'd fall asleep, they'd hear somebody close to
Oh
them
my
yell out their name, and I was like, oh my gosh, that happened to me when I was a kid. But yeah, I don't think I'm ever. Oh, there are moments where I'm scared awake.
Okay. Do you remember them, or are you just startled?
Like, do I remember why I was
Yeah,
scared?
do you remember like the inciting, scary
Yes.
incident?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. And there'll be times when I have to like wake up Neil and just be like,
Oh.
you said you hated me in my dream.
Don't you always love that though, when like you confront someone about like like there was once, I don't remember specifically what happened, but something was wrong with like my parents or something, and then I woke up from the dream and it was like 3 a.m. and I was like, I've got to call my parents, but then I was like, Stacy, like you need to talk yourself down off of this. Like if you call them at 3 a.m. about this, they're going to get mad at you. But I was so disturbed. Like, I was really. Anyway, I waited until the morning, and then when my mom was like picked up the phone as usual, I was like, well, I'm not gonna ask her because.
Is that something that your parents? Is that like a oh Stacy, like this
I
is
put
nothing
them
new.
I put them through a lot, especially with my sleep and dream issues when I was very young. I had like all of these sleep problems, and then I was sleepwalking from the time I was a toddler. So they usually were woken up at like 2, 3 a.m. with me physically in their room.
I went through a phase um, where I would sleep on the floor in the living room.
Okay.
I don't know why, but I did that like all through college too. Like I'd sleep on the floor in like a sleeping bag. And one time, the only time I think that I freaked my mom out was when I sat up and I
Okay.
opened my eyes and I just started sucking the air.
Oh my gosh.
And it's like a kid, you know, like trying to suck their thumb, but I just
Oh.
like
Yeah, that would freak me out. Even after everything I've done to people, that would still.
are your eyes open when you're moving around?
Yes, they are, but I look out of it. Like I just
Yeah.
don't look like I'm like you can kind of tell that something's not right. So either I guess the options would be I'm inebriated or I'm sleepwalking. Typically, I'm sleepwalking. Typically. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Do you feel like your dreams are ever so do you ever feel like when you wake up that they could come true at some point?
Um, no.
That's fine. That's fine.
No, I mean, I think that like I'm pretty aware that they're dreams. And everything is just like I think when I'm in them, I think that like I'm really here's a dream that I had recently. Like I was we were trying to figure I don't know who I was with. Usually I don't like know in my dream I'm like, "Oh, that's that person, that's that person, that's that person." But then like I wake up and I remember it, but I can't
Mm,
sometimes remember like who was actually there. You know,
okay.
Boz, like you were there and you were there and you were there. Um this last one recent one, I was like we were talking about trying to come up with a funny horror movie or something and I came up with the title Mummy's Deer, and it was going to be about like a mummy who had a killer deer, like a
I
doe.
like it.
And I thought it was so stinking clever. And I woke up and I was like, no.
I don't know. I think that's pretty funny.
And because it would have like people would have been like, oh, like a little like a mom and her child, like that's the horror of it. But the horror of it is actually that it's a mummy wrapped up with like a deer that kills. That I think in my dreams I'm just so proud of myself sometimes.
Yeah.
And I wake up and I'm like, that's not funny, or that's dumb, or that's silly. So
I,
in that sense, I think like I don't think they're gonna come true.
okay, I hear. I hear.
I'm just smarter in my dreams.
This is a very like specific question specific to you, but I know you watch a lot of movies and
Mhm.
horror movies specifically, and I was just
Mhm.
wondering, do you feel like that impacts your sleep? And I maybe this is like a loaded question because when I was a kid, I was always like for a very long time kind of shielded from like scary movies, and I'm putting this in air quotes that you can't see in podcast world listeners, but I was always like I wanted to watch Silence of the Lambs so badly.
I think it disrupted. So I watched a lot of scary stuff when I was way too young.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember the made-for-TV movie It,
Yep.
and I
Yeah, we
was
talked about
done.
that.
Yeah, I was done. Like no clowns. That's too scary. And like there was a television show on HBO growing up, Tales from the Crypt.
Oh my gosh, yes. Sorry,
With the
I don't
crypt
want to
keeper,
scream, but
and he was like super scary. And I remember there was like this HBO short about a guy who found an apple on the beach and took a bite out of it, and it was like a fishing line inside, and he got dragged into the water. And I remember my dad, like we would have this thing where like my dad would take a nap, and I this is like a really early memory, and my dad was like, you can't leave the couch while I'm taking a nap. And so I couldn't leave the couch, and he left that on. And so I watched it, and it was the middle of the day, and it scared the life out of me. But this is to say that I think I'm more afraid of preparing to go to bed after watching scary movies than
mm,
my sleep. So my sleep is affected in the fact that like I don't like going into a dark hallway,
yes.
or I like to have all the lights on or something.
Mm-hmm.
Um yeah, but I don't know if my dreams are probably impacted in some way. Oh yeah, there was this stupid Netflix show called Two Sentence Horror Stories.
That
And
keeps popping up on my recommended.
oh boy, and I do watch a lot of scary stuff, and for whatever reason there was an episode of that scared me, and I had bad dreams.
What was the episode?
It was about it was about a woman who made YouTube videos.
So I went on a rant about this the other day to my parents because they have they have to listen to me at this point. I think my parents are so used to me, in the times before COVID, I would always be like, they'd be like, what are you doing today? And I'd be like, well, I have a very busy day. I'm doing this and I'm doing this and I'm doing this and I'm doing this and I really can't talk that long. Goodbye. But now they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, what are your thoughts on God? I went on this rant to them the other day because I do truly believe this. We're like, I like horror movies. I think horror is my favorite genre.
Okay.
I think it is my favorite genre for several reasons.
Okay.
One is because I feel like it knows how to make fun of itself, whereas I feel like I don't know of another, maybe comedies, like, but bad comedies, but like no other genre has really gotten to that point in its like evolution where it can just be like, you know what, we know what you're thinking right now. So I like that about it. And I also feel like I like the adrenaline rush. Like, it makes me feel like I'm actually actively doing something, which
Hmm.
is good because after, staying at home for all these months, it feels good to feel active even though I'm still sitting on my couch. And also I feel like it's one of the few genres that like it definitely hit a slump in like the late 70s, early 80s, and I feel like it's bounced back from it.
Hmm.
Whereas like I don't know of another genre that's done that so well. Like I feel like with westerns in particular, like I feel like western is still in a slump, but there are sometimes good westerns that come out every few years, but it's not like a revitalization of the genre, and I don't think there ever is going to be a revitalization of the genre. Just
That's a hot take.
just my opinion. Just my opinion about it. But like horror movie, so good. And like I think, you know, when Hereditary came out, and which is like the genre just like bent, like it just wasn't even like it's scary, but it definitely is not a traditional movie, and it broke all.
Mm-hmm.
So that movie scared me. That movie
Scared me. Yeah, it
scared me. And I do think I struggled with falling asleep the night after I watched it, but I feel like those movies, also Get Out, which also bent the genre.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I'm not seeing as many scary movies that are like that scary. And I'm like, why is that? And do you think this? Like, what do you think about this?
I think I agree with you. I was actually talking about horror movies recently as a genre, and I think that like maybe I'm going to throw this theory out there.
Do it.
Sometimes I think horror movies don't have to justify as much as like other movies, and so they can take bigger risks.
Yes.
And those risks can be like pretty frightening. And it's like jumps, but they're also like all types of scares that you that feel more tangible than like a drama where it's like, oh, this is sad or they're pathetic, and that's kind of the two, you know, tragic empathy, sympathy. But horror movies, it's like, you know, something pops out or something is like psychologically scary or something like some comment on society that makes you like, oh yeah, that's right, that's actually the world I live in, and that's terrifying.
100%. I agree with that.
I have been watching Hulu has this, okay, so we're big Blumhouse nerds over here.
Welcome to Monsterland?
No, Into the Dark series.
Oh, Into the Dark.
Yeah.
I love Into the Dark.
So we've been watching all of the Into the Dark movies. Like every weekend we watch one. And they're not good, but for whatever reason, they're still like entertaining. And I think the whole like, have you read his rules on making movies?
Ooh, no, I haven't.
He's got like certain rules that are like, you don't shoot in a lot of locations, you don't have that many actors, your budget's this much, and they're all to like keep it contained. But that's kind of part of the horror of it, is that like you can't leave your space.
Yes.
And that's kind of cool.
I think I've seen all of them too, because also really like Blumhouse, and
he's gonna have it. There's gonna be a series on Amazon.
Really? Oh my god. Well,
movies that come out or something that are
I'm sold. I think of Into the Dark, the ones I liked the most were, I don't remember their titles, to be honest, but the one where the daughter and the dad were together and the daughter thought
she couldn't leave the house.
Yeah. And she was like, "Dad, you're a killer," and he was like, "What?"
Yeah, that was like a scary Lifetime movie.
That was a scary Lifetime movie. It kind of reminded me of a modern day weird remake almost of Rear Window, in a sense of like someone kind of being confined to a space and like everyone around them kind of gaslighting them and is like, what? You're totally fine here. And it's like, no, I'm not. But I found that one to be well done, but I think I am very into things taking place in small spaces. Like, and I think I was, again, ranting to my parents about it because no one else was around. But like the original When a Stranger Calls, I think that's where that movie triumphs, is that the house is like a normal person's house. Like it's a small house, and the evil guy is literally like steps away from the protagonist, where in the remake in 2006, the house is like this grandiose palace where they're like, where is the killer? It's like, I don't know, acres away probably, because it was the size of like a, I don't know, it was crazy. But so I like that one. I like the one with the mom and the son who's a serial killer.
The mom. Where she keeps making clones.
Making, yeah, the
We
clones.
just watched that one. All the things you make are dangerous or something.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We just saw that one. Yeah.
I like that one because, and so since you just saw this, let me pick your brain about this because I truly do not. There's a moment in that because they do a really good job at establishing very early on where it's like this guy's a killer. He's insane. He's not right. He's a sociopath. But towards the end there, I was like, is he the problem? Or is the mom creating this entire thing and like in a sense gaslighting him and being like, you will do this, you will always do this
You'll
because
always do this. That's just your nature.
yeah,
Well, I mean, it was the Mother's Day one.
that is the Mother's Day one.
So, I mean, you know, I think that answers the question.
Oh my gosh.
Like, she's the one that created that chaos, right? And she just keeps feeding it.
I think that one, like, it. Sorry,
you
you go.
saw the one they come and knock in or whatever about the like family on the bus.
Oh yes,
that one scared me. Yep,
that one was pretty scary. Whoa. And then the one, and I don't know why, but it was such like a classic killer tale. But I like the one about the gay men on New Year's Eve.
Oh, that was a good slasher.
It was really good, really well done. I enjoyed every moment of it, to be honest. I was like, I want a group of friends like these, which, oh no, good time.
Really hate each other.
That's true, they really didn't like each other.
But they showed up for each other.
That's true.
So
that's
that
very
was
true.
Nice. Yeah.
Oh, good one. That was a good one.
Yeah, we are far deep into it. So yeah, those are fun. I don't think I mean, if anything, like, because I used to not like watching horror movies at night.
Mm-hmm.
And usually we watch them like on a Saturday afternoon when it's like bright and sunny out. But sometimes we'll watch them at night. And I feel like, if anything, like you said, you just get so amped up.
Yeah.
And you want to like think about it or talk about it. I feel that way about good movies and horror movies.
Yeah.
You're like, but what about
Well, I totally agree, and I think that was where, like, why Hereditary kind of had such hype, because, like, it was so scary, but also it was thought provoking in a way where you're like, but wait, like, what exactly is even going on here?
Yeah, but in a way where, like, I never felt like I had to solve it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could just think about it, and that some movies I'm like, oh, I feel like somebody's trying to tell me to solve something, or that like there are enough clues that I need to be smarter about how I watched it. But Hereditary is just like, oh no, random stuff happens.
Yeah.
It's crazy and it's terrifying.
It's so, oh my gosh. And it's, for me, it's like, I love Toni Collette, like, otherworldly love, to be honest, and she can play like any type of character, in my opinion, but like she really can, because but for reasons that are unknown to me, for literally the past 20 years she's always played a mom of the same age group of child, because like she was in The Sixth Sense as the mom, and then she was in Little Miss Sunshine as the mom, and then she was in Hereditary, and like all of her kids in those three movies are the same age, and it's like it's really spanned 20 years, but it's like, but there you got Toni Collette still playing the mom. Sixth Sense also I would put on the list of, actually that was one movie that did interrupt my sleep, I do want to say. Yeah. And I think it was because I like really empathized with the kid, because like he didn't know how to get the help he needed, if that makes sense. That sounds terrible, but like but I think like everyone was just like, everyone ranged from like in his life ranged from sympathetic to exasperated, from his like parents to his teachers to like his classmates, because they're like, why aren't you, like, what is going on? And it's like he was literally in his own thought bubble of like,
terribleness, but the scene of that movie that really got me for like really disturbed me was when he was at that birthday party and like the balloon was floating up to the top and he went to go get it, or
stairwell, right?
Yeah, in the stairwell, and the stairwell, like, and I think what did it with that was like it was very atmospheric, because you're like, oh well, a curved staircase, nope. Like, I would have just let the balloon go. But like, do you believe that sometimes buildings have like a feeling to them, like a bad feeling to them?
I think that there are places that I'll go where I think, like, I don't need to see any more of this space. Like, I'm going to stay in the well areas.
Yeah.
I'm going to, or like, if there are people around, I'm going to stay where the people are. Like, I am not somebody who will explore a stairwell.
Okay, good to know.
But I also don't like elevators.
Yeah.
So how do I get?
How do you get to where you need to go?
Yeah.
Escalators. What are your thoughts on escalators?
They're fine. I mean, I haven't watched any like escalator fails on YouTube, so I'm okay with them right now.
Can I tell you an escalator? No, actually, I won't. Actually, maybe I will. Do you want me to tell you?
Tell me. What do you got?
Okay, so years ago, I think this took place in Baltimore at some old sports arena that's no longer in use. They installed like one of the first escalators of the area. So there was a sporting game going on in this arena, but unfortunately, there was like a gate at the end of the escalator so that it would only allow like one person out at a time, and people, like, it created a blockage. Yeah, it created a blockage where then like people just got crushed, and the escalator, like, they basically just like crushed themselves, and like people got like lacerated by the escalator. And it was, and I think people died during this, and it's like, I need to figure out where this took place, because it's like one of the worst accidents that happened in a sporting game that had nothing to do with the sport. It was just like an infrastructure problem.
Physically bunching up with somebody. So like I'm claustrophobic. And so like a nightmare of mine is doing those tube water slides.
Oh.
Someone being stuck in them and then I get stuck in it. Or like getting stuck in a revolving door.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Have you seen this movie on HBO called Class Action Park?
Yes, I have watched that, yes.
Well, then, like, that is that one ride that had the loop in it where it's like, they're like, yeah, people got stuck, or like, people got hurt, broke their bones, like, and it's like, I mean, I knew it was in the 70s, but even so, like, people were just like, go on, kids, go. Like, it doesn't seem right.
I can't think about that.
This might play on your fear of I'm claustrophobic as well, and a few years ago I went it was a friend's wedding and they had it at Disney World, and so I was because I had not been to Disney World in years, like since I was a child. So I was like, I'm going to Disney World, oh my God. So me and a friend, we got there like a day or two early. We were both in the wedding, so we had to get there early anyway. So we got there even earlier to like spend some time in the park. And we went to Epcot, we went to Spaceship Earth. And it's like, have you been to Disney World, Kristina?
I have been to Disney World.
Okay. Have you been inside Spaceship Earth?
No.
So this is...
Did it have a sign saying like, it's scary?
No, it's an all ages ride. Supposedly, and also in reality it is, because basically you sit in a little, it's like a two-person like car, and it's in a line of other two-person cars, maybe like 8 cars per line, and it basically like rotates you up to the top of Spaceship Earth, and Judi Dench talks to you the entire time and tells you the history of communication.
That's beautiful.
It's great. And then you like glide backwards and you see the stars and like it's supposed to be great. And I know this because on my subsequent trip to Disney World, I did the thing the way it was supposed to go and it was very, very nice. But the first time I went, as 20, I don't know how old I was, but it doesn't matter, in 2016. So we were like, we just passed the medieval ages and we were like, there was a, what are they called, these people that they in the olden times had they had boats, they rode on boats, Vikings, thank you. So we just passed thank you, we passed the Vikings and then everything stopped.
No, like the ride broke down.
So unfortunately not. It was, so they time out the cars, like, so the cars are separated by like 5 to 10 minutes, like whatever gap makes it all work. And someone in the car ahead of us had like a medical emergency.
Oh.
And like we knew that because they like broadcast it over the intercom. They're like, this is a insert code here, medical emergency. So like, which was like horrifying, like that someone obviously was needed help and like but because of that, like everything stopped, like no more Judi Dench talking to you, like we were just stuck on this car and it's like and it was at that point where it's like we're in this enclosed tube basically, we're next to these Vikings animatronics that are still rowing their boat, but we're not hearing anything more from them, so they're just rowing, but they're rowing silently. And we were in that position for like a good 10 minutes and like it was very like, it was disorienting too because we were like, we're not flat, we're like tilted up, so like we're leaning back and it's like, I hated it so much.
That sounds like a nightmare. Yeah, I'd hate that.
It's not good.
I would hate that.
But we eventually got to the top and then we got all of our way down. What were this has been a wonderful conversation. it's gone away
about things that scare us.
Yes.
Which could affect our sleep. Because I think essentially this is a sleep.
This is a sleep discussion. It's supposed to be.
Sleep discussion.
I think a tag that I'll put onto all of this is like, I honestly, and I have not told anyone this yet, but now it's going to be public knowledge, I suppose. But like, I do sleep with the lights on. Like, I don't like sleeping in the dark. I've never liked it. It disturbs me.
I fall asleep with the TV on.
Well, see, like even that, like it's like some light, some like connection to reality, you know, where it's like, at least I'm hearing voices. Like I hate silence and dark, like
yeah. I have a sleep timer so the TV will turn off.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So it's really not that technologically advanced. It really is. All TVs come with a sleep timer. But I usually watch some like bright like cartoon of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't fall asleep with like you know what? One time I did fall asleep watching the first episode of Walking Dead.
Oh my gosh, Kristina.
I was like, that's stupid because I don't think I slept well because I think I was just like anxious about it all.
And see, like I'm glad we're talking about this because I feel like for The Walking Dead, that show is more stressful to me than scary. But like the stress is like, it like if you can feel your bones like scrunching up because you're like, oh my gosh, what is happening?
A lot of those shows, it's because like the protagonist does something that puts them in harm's way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think I just am like, why am I along for the ride? I would not do this to myself. Like now I'm just watching your poor choices.
Oh, 100%.
That's what I don't like. Of like, I would have no adventure.
Oftentimes I think about like, what would Herschel and his family's life be like if Rick just never went to their farm? And it like almost it all like it hurts.
Stacey, I got through the first episode.
Okay, well then I'm not gonna ruin it for you. But if you ever decide to watch more, just know eventually there's a man named Herschel and he has a farm.
It's funny that we're talking about all these like resurgence of horror movies and like how they're like artful and funny and interesting now, but like they all go back to this just really scary stuff that people were making. Like Rosemary's Baby and Psycho and The Shining, like all these unexplainable but like really scary images. Like I think of like when you say like that one shot, like I think of The Shining and all of the rooms that would like open up and something, or the lady in the bathtub.
You know what? That did keep me up at night.
Old scary naked women is probably
that did really creep me out. And I remember the first time I saw that movie, I like covered my eyes because I had read the book prior to seeing the movie.
Okay.
So I knew that the woman was going to turn into the creepy, decrepit, old, like rotting woman. Yeah. So I was like, well, gonna close my eyes. But even so, even with my eyes closed, I could still hear her laugh, which was the laugh of death. Like if death had a laugh, that's what it would be. And it like that itself was enough to just that, and the background music, which was like the violin going. I was like, well, Kubrick, you got me. You got me again.
He made a lot of Clockwork Orange scared me.
I was one of those teenagers that I was like, this movie's amazing. Like, that was bad. I was so obsessed with Stanley Kubrick. I was like, just so annoying about it.
Did you watch Barry Lyndon?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I haven't even. I'm not that bad.
As like an adult, I'm like, I was a little too like fanatical about him, but there's so many things about Barry Lyndon that when you look at like, well, one, it's way too long, but that's like everything he did was he was like, everything here has a purpose and la la la, and like, I think with Barry Lyndon, just like the attention to detail and how he's like, we're gonna light every scene just with the candles and natural lighting, and people are like, no, like you cannot do this, there's not enough light, and he's like, we're doing it. we're doing it. And it's like, did it work out? Sure. Is it beautiful? Yes. Couldn't we use a little more light? I'm gonna say yes, we could have. We definitely could have. But I think with The Shining, the scene that sticks in my mind is when Shelley Duvall goes into the room and sees the typewriter that just says all work and no play, and then Jack Nicholson comes up behind and then kind of like makes her retreat back to the stairs, and that whole scene between them is so like just like in your face and just like, oh my god, just
it's a heavy scene.
Yeah.
There's any scene where you're like, where you're convinced that someone's in actual danger.
Mm-hmm.
It's what is art, right? When you can actually see how it's created. Ugh.
I love that, Kristina. That might be the title of this podcast episode. What is art when you can see what's... I'm not, you know what? We're gonna use it.
Okay, are we gonna go to sleep now? Is that how this ends? We
both
go to sleep with the cameras on. Watch each other go to sleep.
I feel like I am gonna have some interesting dreams with all of our conversation about it, but
I'll text you tomorrow morning and I'll let you know.
Text me.
I'll text you and I'll tell you what happened if I had anything.
That sounds
really
good.
At remembering my dreams.
See, that's good. I'm gonna need this that attention to detail. And it's very weird because I've spoken to about 7 people so far for this, and I feel like it's been a pretty even split, 50-50. Half really remember their dreams, and I include kind of myself in that category, and the other half are like, I can remember a fragment of it. It's kind of like they're describing a shadow almost, where they like
Mm.
they know they dream, they kind of remember how they felt during it, but they can't piece together the details. So
That drive me crazy.
I know.
I think
Me
because
too.
I'm like so detail oriented that like I refuse to not know what I was thinking.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And that's a wrap on episode 3 of Now Entering Dreamland. If you enjoyed this podcast, if you want to hear more, if you want to stay in Dreamland longer, you can double back to check out the previous 2 episodes. The first one is just me talking about sleep paralysis, which is something that I experience pretty regularly. The second one is another interview style, so depending on what your preferences are, we have those available for you. We're also releasing new episodes every Sunday, so you don't have to wait that long to listen to the new episode because it's coming out in just a week. You're now leaving Dreamland, but we'll see you soon.